So now we are very pleased to introduce A.V. Verekar. He is on our board of directors here at Sky City. He founded Avero Advisors here in Blount County, and you are on your second year, correct, of being on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing
yes.
Companies in America. Yeah. So thank you so much, A.V.
Thank you. Whoa. Thanks for coming today. Can you guys hear me back there? Okay. Like I told many people, I promised lunch, not learning. So we'll see how that goes. Some people didn't get lunch either. Lunch is good. Thank you. Yeah. So when we advertised this event or this lunch and learn, it was how I built this, and I don't think it's fair to my team. Half of the crowd is Avero employees that do a lot of the work, and I get the credit. So I thought it was important to change the title to how we built this, because as you all know, it's easy to start a business. You can go sign up on the SOS website for $100. You can have an LLC or a C Corp, whatever you want. You can have a business today. You can be a business owner. What it takes is customers, a team, and making money to be a real business. So we've been in business since 2016, and at first it was, can we make it past 3 years? And we did. Oh, thank you, whoever did that. And then we're in year 7 now, and I don't think there's any signs of us stopping or going away. We're only getting stronger, bigger, better. So I wanted to tell you Avero's story and my story a little bit and take questions. Please keep it interactive. It is lunchtime. I don't want people falling asleep. So no heckling, but ask questions. So I'm going to bore you to death for the next 3 hours. I'm kidding. But we'll talk quickly about the company, what we do, about me, what our values and goals are, who our customer is, and then just some lessons learned, because it hasn't been, it's been a very fun journey. It wasn't always easy, and it still isn't, but like I said, we have a great team that makes things easy now. So I founded in 2016 in my apartment in Knoxville, not a garage or basement, apartment, not a school. And I started it in 2016 when I had left the job that I was in before, and the only thing I knew how to do is consulting for the government. Like, I have a couple of master's degrees, but I knew nothing before I got into this field. So the only thing I knew, and my back was to the wall, I needed to make rent, eat some food. I was single at the time. I had a cat. I had to feed the cat. So I had to make money. So no, I only have one now. No, I have 3 now. I had 1 back then.
You needed a lot of money because you were single and you had just 1.
Yes, yeah. So anyway, 2016, and the first time we made money was in 2017. So it took some time to get a contract and sell a client, and I was fortunate that I knew people in the industry that I could go and say I can deliver value, and found a client, and we made our first dollar in 2017. And these are major milestones, right? There's a lot that went on between the years and the months. Lots of failures, lots of rejections. But in 2019 was what I think was our highlight, like my personal highlight. We won the Best of Blount Award. And as a Blount County founded company that was serving Blount County, my first client was Blount County government. And what we do, I'll get to in a bit. But Blount County government was the first client. City of Maryville was the second client. City of Alcoa was the third client. So how could we not get Best of Blount? So that moment was very impactful to me. It was an emotional night. It was the last Best of Blount awards they had before COVID, and we won. And then in 21 and 22 came like the national recognition. We were on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing American private companies in the US 2 years in a row. And that takes some doing. You need to have a minimum baseline level of revenue, and then you have to show growth between two different years. So I think when we won in 21, the numbers we had to share were 2018 and 2020. And what happened in 2020? Things didn't go well for a lot of businesses. We were fortunate that it, at the time, was the best year we had had. So, like Shannon said, we are now 2 years running Inc. 5,000 fastest growing companies in the US. In 21, we were, I think, ranked 750 something. And then in 22, we were at 2,000 something, which isn't bad. I mean, we're still on the 5,000 list. And I think we're going to make it this year. So stay tuned. So since 2016, so going from just me and my cat in my apartment to a team of about 30 people. And we've been named as the best workplaces in the US. We are part of many industry organizations, and what we do is a lot of project management. So you hear me say PMP, PMI a lot. We are a minority-owned certified business in a bunch of states, which is it's a nice to have. It's not something we market ourselves on. And we're a decent-looking bunch, and that helps. And so some of our teams here, if you're not on the slide, I apologize. And some people don't have headshots, but this is my management team. And, this is the backbone of the company. I started it, but I had to find people around me that could take the same values and run with it, spoke the same language, and could build this organization with me. So, and none of these, and again, I haven't told you what we do. We do IT consulting, IT and management consulting for governments. It's extremely boring work that you can't go to school for, right? Like my background is finance and accounting. I have an MBA in finance. I have a master's degree in accounting, and I am in the IT management consulting field. So I had to find people around me that knew the subject matter, and they knew what they were doing in different parts of the industry and the business. I also had to find people out of necessity, or because when you're starting a company, you're not funded. I'm not funded. There's no venture capital funding. It's all from cash flows and cash flows. So you can't necessarily afford people that have been 30-year veterans in the firm. You have to find people that had the right attitudes, were hungry to learn and for opportunity, and were excited about the adventure. And that's who you're looking at. So April here is our operations manager. She keeps our books in order and money flowing in and bills paid and people paid. Katie Konatzer is one of our senior managers. She runs large projects with her team that includes Kaylee and Will and Reese and Joe and Zach. And Megan here, who many of you know, that's her job, to be known. Really, she gets paid for this. She gets paid to go hang out at things and make friends. She's a business development manager. Her job is to bring in the business, bring in new business. And then we have rock star consultants, right? This is again, you don't have a headshot, so you're not on there. This is just some of the team. These people are, design majors. They are public policy majors. They are, I don't even know, computer science majors. And what did you go to school for, Zach? Public policy, yeah. So just people that, again, are not very experienced, but that's by design. We want people that are hungry to learn, have the right attitudes, and can put in the long hours and the hard work to get ahead. And that's who. And this is just a snapshot. These are the best looking people we have. So what do we do? Avero Advisors. I've said a lot of things about who we are and who we're made up of. We are an IT management consulting firm. Again, word salad. What does that mean, right? I'll tell you a story. The first client we had was Blount County government. And in 2016, when they gave us a contract, their technology and operations were somewhere in 1977 or 78 at best. green screen computers, like, people working on green screens, dinosaur age. They had no virtualized servers. They had no fiber optic cabling, none of this cool stuff. And the first thing we did for them was an IT strategic plan. We said, okay, here, mayor and your directors, where do you want to be? Where do you want to be as a county government, as a community? And we charted a plan for the next 5 years. And then we had to convince them to spend the money, right? It wasn't easy. 5 years worth of tech investments coming from 1977. It cost them about $4 or $5 million to overhaul and throw everything out and become what they are today, which is one of the best run tech advanced county governments in East Tennessee, if not the country. And they're too humble to say that to anybody. But that's them. So along the way, we had to not just plan it, but manage, we had to convince the commission to give them the money. We had to then find the right vendors. We had to find the right people to work on these projects. And I think last year or year before that, they finished that major modernization program, which took them to several awards in cybersecurity in terms of modern operations and business processes. And one of the coolest things that Blount County government with Maryville and Alcoa does is they have a joint fiber optic ring, a network that is unheard of, at least in Tennessee. It's been done in California and the DC area, but no one's done it outside of that. And that has allowed the governments to save money, become more efficient, make money. They now have the fiber infrastructure in place that allows them to bring in revenue from companies like Iris or ENA. That, again, has allowed them to recoup all of their costs and just become more efficient. They can now take that revenue and stay up to date and keep up with the times. So we've done a lot of that, a lot of this for Blount County and governments across the country. So we have clients now in California, we have clients in Boston, New York, Arizona, Ohio, all over the country. And my team mostly works out of Maryville at our offices down the street, but they are also all over the place. We do a lot of travel, especially post-COVID, travels come back, and we're always visiting somewhere to go meet with clients, to meet with vendors, to make sure that we're delivering the right services to our clients. Any questions so far? Zach, you had a question? Okay. So what are our values? Doing business, what we do, a lot of other companies do. A lot of very large companies do that. We compete with companies that have 3,000 to 5,000 employees. They've been around for 50 years. And we hold our own in the ring. We punch back and we win a lot of contracts against those people. And because our business mostly comes from the government, we have to do RFPs and we have to compete in a public way. Like, all of our stuff is out there on the internet. And so there is no real secret sauce to the thing that we do. Like, it's a commodity. It's a chicken bowl, right? Everyone's selling it. What is it that makes us different? Why are we successful? So in a room full of people that are trying to gauge who the right firm to go with is, and you have 3,000 person firm with 3,000, 40 years worth of legacy and branding, and then it's us out of little Maryville. No one's ever heard about Avero. No one's ever heard about Maryville or Blount County, and all of our stories are 6 years old. We don't have 40-year legacies. But we lean on our values. And I think when we go to do pitch meetings and sales presentations, we want to make sure that these values come through, because that's what makes us stand apart. Because again, service is the service. Everyone can do it. So number one value is caring deeply for our customers. Like, we care deeply for our customer, not just the project or the money they're going to pay us or the organization. If you're my client, we're going to care about you and your well-being. And everyone does that. It's not just an AV thing, right? You speak to any of our clients, that's what they'll tell you. We bend over backwards to make sure you're getting the right outcomes and that you're treated well by everybody. The second thing is growing our team members. And this is, we're hiring right now for project managers and business analysts and things. And we've tried not to hire for our executive team or management from the outside. We've grown our management. So everybody that you saw on that screen came in green, no experience in consulting. They had master's degrees maybe. But they came in and put in the hard yards, and they became managers. They became senior managers. They became operations managers and directors. But I think there's an expiration date to that model, right? As you grow, you need management to come in and fit into the right slot. So we're not struggling, but that's our current dilemma. How do we keep our values and our sort of ground up grassroots sort of organization, and how do we fit an experienced manager that has industry experience into our culture? We haven't figured that out yet. We're in the process. But we value growing our team members. Anyone that walks in the door has the opportunity to take my job. If they're good enough, come get it. That applies to anybody. And we advertise that fact pretty honestly and pretty forcefully. Again, if you're good enough, take your boss's job. And that means that your boss can now have their boss's job and their boss's job. And then one day, one of you will come have my job, I hope. And I mean that. So growing our team members from the inside and from the grassroots is a dear value to me, because that's how I grew up. That's how my mentors gave me opportunities. And then the third one, and there's a lot more, but these are the top ones, like incremental improvements. Did we do better than we did yesterday? Some of my team members don't like the fact that we don't have numerical goals and metrics and KPIs. I'm not looking at anyone in particular, but I don't quite operate that way, because, what are we going to say? Let's do 10 million next year in revenue. How do you know that if you get there, it was because of things you did? Or if you didn't get there, did things we do not help us get there? So numbers happen when the right processes and the right values are put in place. Truly believe that. So incremental improvement is what has got us here. Did we do our processes better? Are we better at gaining clients, at marketing, at serving clients, at hiring people, at nurturing employees better than we were last year? I think we are. And so this year our job is to get better at what we did last year or last month. So who am I? Where did AV come from? Right? That's my entrepreneurial journey, because this is the Sky City Entrepreneur Center and co-starters. I think this is valuable to explain how I got here. So I was born in Goa, India, which is on the west coast of the country. Beautiful weather, 90 degrees, it's by the beach. And I was there from 81 to about 2004. I got a Bachelor of Commerce degree, which is like generic business degree, and it was a compromise move. I wanted to become a chef. I wanted to go to culinary school. And the way it works in India in high school is, like, when you graduate high school, if you have the grades, you can go to like a path to med school or engineering school. And I had the grades. So I'm 15 and I go to my parents and I say, I don't want to be a doctor, which is what I wanted to do when I was young. And it's one of the few times they've been upset at me. They're like, what do you mean? Right? Smart Indian kid has to become a doctor. Like, no, I want to go to culinary school. And they're like, nah, let's not do that. Why don't you get a degree in something so that you become employable, and then you do what you want. So I got a degree in commerce, which is like accounting and finance and business and economics and stuff. And I started to like the business world. I still want to go to culinary school. I might still do it. And then I got a master's degree in accounting. And then my technical bent kicked in. I was always that kid that opened up radios to see what's inside and put it back, and I did it well. And so sometime in 99, I started a company to build websites for people. And the funny thing was, no one had computers. or the internet. So I would try to go sell it to neighborhood businesses, and they're like, "What are you talking about? What's a website?" And then even if they knew, they were like, "It's not for me." But we did some of that, right? And while I'm getting a master's in accounting and finance, and then I applied to grad school in the U.S. Don't ask me why. I mean, it's like I'm 21 years old and I want to go adventure and see what's out there. Because I didn't want to, because my path in India, as I'm getting my master's degree in accounting, was to become a CPA or go the banking route, and I would have done well. But instead, I chose to get a master's degree in business. Again, I don't know why. Ask my 21-year-old self, and it'll be like, I just don't want to do this. I want to go somewhere else and do something else, and that's what I chose. So I go from, 85, 90 degree weather every day, close to the beach, to Cleveland, Ohio, for grad school. And the reason was that they agreed to pay like tuition, and so they paid for my tuition. I was a teaching assistant in finance. I was teaching undergrads, and to pay rent, I was going to work at the mall. I spent evenings and weekends working at the Tower City Mall, for those that have been to Cleveland. And I sold perfume and cell phone accessories. I know a lot about those two things. Cell phone accessories from 2004. So flashing antennas and flashing keyboards and chargers of all kinds. And while I'm working at the mall, my roommate calls me and says, "Hey, the company I'm working for is hiring interns, and they're gonna pay real money. Are you in?" Like, "I'll interview." Like $38,000 a year? Sounds great, I'm in. So I get that job sometime in 2005, and I really fell in love with the business of consulting. I had no idea that this job existed, right? And it's true for us. When we put it out there, a lot of our new employees or people that come to interview are like, "We didn't know this industry or this business existed, and that we could even be part of it." So what I fell in love with was the ability to solve problems for people, and I could use the two sides of my brain. I had the mentality that I should have probably become an engineer, right? I'm opening things up and looking at what's inside and how things are made. I could use that kind of brain power with my finance and accounting training, and be part of an industry where all you do is solve problems for people. And that's what that company did in 2005. They used to do IT strategic plans and ERP consulting for governments. And I did well. I found the thing that I really liked. I latched onto it. I found mentors. I learned the business. I learned how to become a professional, because the first day that I walked into that job, I quickly realized I knew nothing. I had 2 master's degrees. I knew nothing. I was at the bottom of the barrel in terms of job skills or being able to communicate, and it was a steep learning curve. In 7 years, I became the CEO of that firm that I joined as an intern. Yes, it's impressive, but there was a lot of there was a catch to it, and I ran that company for 3 years, and then I quit, and I went to Baltimore to start a consulting firm for a company that used to do software development. Did that for 3 years. I quit because I had a disagreement on numbers with the ownership. We didn't quite do math the same way. So I quit, and then I started Avero in Knoxville. And then since 2016, life has been very different. Like I found the thing that I liked. I founded the company that I wanted to build, that I wanted to work at, and here we are. In 2022 and beyond, like we've scaled many heights with my team. I can't be prouder. Because it's not an easy business. It's not an easy business to get into, to get business, to make money in, and to stay in business. I've been in this industry for, what now, 18 years, 17 years? And I've seen many companies come and go. It's, like I said, it's a consulting business. You don't need inventory. You don't need investments. All you need is a laptop and a brain and the ability to sell. And I've seen many companies come and go because they think the first two things are what makes a company. And I did too. I was just, I had the third element going. I could sell. So here we are. And then I've taken those successes and I have other business interests. I have some interests in the international hospitality business. What else do I do? I used to be in the weight loss business. I'm not anymore.
Real estate.
What?
Real estate.
Real estate. And then my wife, I support her business. She's a professional artist. So we do art shows all over the place, and she's really good. So that's my story. Along the way, I've been married, divorced, had kids, moved many places, been sued other people. So this is the happy path. These are the good things that happened to me. So what have I learned? And this is to the Entrepreneur Center, to entrepreneurs, to my employees, who I think are some of the sharpest, most brilliant people in the world. Not just because you're here, you really are. And what we're trying to do is make, like I said, I'm in the business of making CEOs. If you leave here and don't become a CEO somewhere else, I haven't done my job. So it's very entrepreneurial. So what does that mean to me? It means taking action, right? And those of you that have been through the Co-Starters program, kudos, you took action. Those of you who have been in business for a long time, kudos, because that's what it takes. Ideas are easy. Starting a business is easy. Taking action to go talk to that person that might be the key to your business growing, or your first contract, or your first employee. Taking action is critical, because if you don't take action, you don't know what lays ahead. You don't know what lies ahead. You don't know what other options are available to you. Once you take action, other options reveal themselves, and then you take action and then see what else is going on. So you have to take action. You can't just have analysis paralysis and not do things. Staying agile is important. How important was it in 2020 when you thought you had a business doing X and you suddenly had to pivot, right? Often used word. And to stay in business, to make money for yourself and your family, you have to stay agile. So staying agile, staying on top of the market, staying on top of what competitors are doing is very important. And even within our organization, we're always agile. We're always changing things. If this doesn't work, we'll tweak something. We'll see what outcomes it produces. And we don't take success for granted, ever. Building a team is critical. Like I've mentioned before, you can be the solo entrepreneur for so long. But in our world, when we're selling brain power and consulting and ideas, you have to have smart people around you. Because it helps grow the business and also makes it more valuable, because you're not the smartest person in the room. I'm not anymore in our firm. And that's what clients see, the depth of your team. And again, commonly heard and read about things in entrepreneurship circles, right? Resiliency, creativity, perseverance. You have to stick to it. My favorite one is humility. You have to be humble in success and failure. Well, failure kind of gives it to you, but humility is also, I think it should be one of our core values, because that's who we are. We strive to be humble, and we're not going to let success in a project or with a client or in general in our business make us act any different. So that value is very important to me, and it should be for every entrepreneur, because you will fail and you will stumble and you will have heartache, and the only way to get out of it is not be up there with your humility. I mean, humility should be high, but you shouldn't be full of yourself, ever. And then navigating challenges and setbacks. That's part of every day. We have that today. As a pretty mature business, we have setbacks on a daily basis, upset clients, vendors that don't deliver what they said they would, employees that don't perform. Yes, they exist. And those setbacks need to be managed and anticipated as much as possible and navigated. I don't know, did I miss anything? As seasoned entrepreneurs, anyone? Okay, I guess I didn't. So, just some quotes and thoughts on what entrepreneurship is. But it means different things to different people. These are the ones that kind of stood out to me as I was doing research. It really is a fun job if you can make money and if you can have the glory and if you can make other people's lives better through your business. On the flip side, it can be very frustrating. It's a grind to get it to that level. And I think people that can get through it are pretty special. And I'm speaking from experience of having failed at other things and having found success in this thing so far. I think it's important to, again, be humble and just keep pushing for what you think is the right thing to do right now, but never losing sight of the fact that you're in this grind to make money and to provide for your family and to serve your customer. Everything else, I mean, entrepreneurship is, I think it's romanticized in the wrong way because of the whole Silicon Valley exposure and Shark Tank and venture capital. It always focuses on, what's the next Facebook, what's the next TikTok, and what's the next Microsoft. Entrepreneurs are everywhere. And you don't have to be a tech entrepreneur. We are not. We get misclassified as tech entrepreneurs. But it's everywhere, and it's a really cool thing to do with your life. Again, as long as you find success, which isn't guaranteed. So, with that, again, we're hiring. If anyone needs a job, talk to these ladies up here. And get in touch. I mean, here's how you get in touch with me, through email, Instagram, text. And with that, I will take questions, if any.
I got one.
Yeah.
What's been your biggest challenge since you hit Blount County? I mean, you've had a lot of interesting bumps and successes along the way. But what's been an interesting challenge that you've overcome here?
I think Blount County, like any, small town, we're not there anymore. But when I came here in 2016, it was very much a small town. And as an outsider, and it could be you, Lisa. I mean, it could be from Knoxville, to come in and gain people's trust was not difficult, but that was challenging. And it's not a knock on Blount County. I've become one of those people now, right? You're from where? Okay, let's put you through the ringer to see if you belong in Blount County. So that was hard. It was challenging because it's not one person that you have to convince. Blount County works as a community. You have to make friends at the chamber and the commission with the city managers and the councils, and I showed up everywhere. I was everywhere if I could now, I would still, but I was everywhere. Just shaking hands and making friends, and not necessarily to ask for business. It was purely from the perspective of, I'm new, I want to know people, and I want you to trust me. And that was pretty difficult. But I think that anyone that comes to Blount County has to go through that. It's a rite of passage. Yes?
How did you land in Knoxville? Like, what made you come here?
So I was in Baltimore, and my first client was Blount County. So we applied to an RFP, and they said, come talk to us. And then I was flying in and out of Baltimore for like 3 or 4 months, and then decided to just move. That's it. Yeah. Current time?
No, you're good.
Oh.
And one thing I wanted to say, thank you today, I needed it personally, because even if you're starting out as an entrepreneur or you've been in a business for a long period of time, you can get into that kind of these slumps, you know, and you sometimes forget some of the values that you just brought up. And so it's even for people like me who've been doing it for so long that need to hear, like I said, the things that keep you engaged in that entrepreneurship type. Just hearing those values kind of have revived me a little bit. And it's something I needed, so I wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
I mean, it's a very interesting story.
Leslie was one of my first friends in Blount County. Rick?
I second what Leslie said as far as your values. I mean, that really, that hits home, and that's how business should be done. But I always like to know, what's in a name? Where did Avero Advisors come from?
His name.
That's how creative I am. I'm not. So when I was sitting there starting my company, I had to put in a name into the Secretary of State, and it's the combination of my first and last name. That's it. It's stupid, and it's, you know, it also, as a solo entrepreneur at the time, I had recognition in the consulting world, but I wanted that to bleed through to the brand. That's where Avero came from, and advisors, because I didn't want us to be consultants. Because that word also is a little, you know, sullied, muddied. Consultants have a negative connotation. So I didn't want to be a consultant by name. So advisors has a better, I think, a higher meaning word that is not going to take your watch and tell you what time it is. And a consultant would do that, and an advisor would never do that. So that's where the name came from.
I think stereotypically, entrepreneurs talk about perseverance rather than failures. I think a lot of us, I know myself, especially, perseveres to a fault. Do you have any tips or advice on when you should cut bait and run, consider it a failure, or you just have persevered more and you just need to figure those things out? So how do you tell the difference?
Yeah, so it's easy from a place of success to give that advice. But I'll tell you, so I went into the weight loss business like 3 or 4 years ago, right? In Kentucky, with my uncle. Invested money, and that didn't quite go well. So I lost money and a good relationship. So, you know, free advice, don't do business with family, ever.
Second.
Yeah. But there came a point where, you know, you have equity in the business and you're seeing the trend creep up, but you've put in 3 years of such emotional grind into this that your heart just isn't in there. And I don't care what happens to that business. I hope it succeeds. But 2 years ago, I said, I don't care. I'm out. My heart's not in it. And yes, I lost a bunch of money. But even if I get it back, I've lost so much more in terms of peace of mind and my relationship. And I would dread anything to do with that business. But again, it's easy for me to make that call when I had other sources of revenue. If that's your only thing, man, it's hard. And I don't know. But I think if you're in that situation and that's your only source of potential income and you've put 3 years into it, I would just go back to your gut and your heart. Like, are you just squeezing every little bit out of yourself that you're not happy and the rest of your life suffers? Because, yeah, you're an entrepreneur, but you're still a person. And like, you need to be a whole person to be a happy person, not just with one piece. So it comes down to a mature decision on how this fits into the rest of your life. Yeah, sorry, I'll come to you next. No, go ahead.
Just curious, you mentioned some commentary on KPIs and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff earlier, right?
maybe as a poor measure of success or those type of things. But I'm curious if you could speak a little more to KPIs and data and the value in maybe defining a business model,
Yeah.
directionality or management of large organizations or projects.
So KPIs are important. I'm not dismissing them. We just don't have them. And we will, right? And every time the team asks me, what are our goals? And I'm like, more. Like, let's do more than we did last year. And a lot of that is a defense mechanism because I don't have the tools. We don't have the tools, right? If you have the right marketing, like if you put $1,000 in and you have the data to say $1,000 will bring me 10,000 prospects that will turn into 100 customers. We don't have that. I have my gut, which is also a bad way of doing this. But we're in the process of putting all that in, right? So when we have that, that's when I can say, okay, here's metrics. We did 3 million last year. Let's take 10% of that, throw it in the marketing fire. That should get us X amount of prospects coming in. That should get us X amount of meetings and X amount of contracts. And now you're running on metrics and KPIs. But in the absence of tools and processes, it's hard to say, let's double next year. And it's a cool, immature way of going rah-rah about the business. But again, you may double, you may not. And for a data person, you quickly come and ask me, how do you know this caused that? Which is why I don't have metrics. One thing is more, like incremental improvements. And I have enough smart people on the team that are, that work on metrics that we're going to have that in place in the next year or so. So next year when I come and speak or when you ask me, I might tell you that next year we want to grow at 3.73% compared to last year because we're going to spend 20% more on marketing. And I know this because of these reasons. Bob?
You willing to say your current headcount?
We're about 30.
And you're competing with companies effectively that have 10 times, 100
Yeah.
times that.
Yeah, we actually have two distinct divisions. One is consulting and the other one is more of the managed services, hardcore IT stuff. So between those two divisions, we have 30. And on the MSP side, we don't necessarily compete with those big guys because it tends to be very localized. But even locally, we compete and beat the local guys. The consulting arm has 20 people. And those are the guys beating the national brands. One competitor came here to meet with us to say, hey, we want to acquire you. You're a pain in the behind. What can we do to get you out of the game? And we respectfully, it was fun. It was one of the highlights of my career to tell him to go home. Like, yeah. Yeah, please.
How much is the vision of what company, how much of the vision of what the company's become has evolved since you started? When you talk about being in your dorm with your cat and the job, was it always, I'm going to start this firm, it's going to do this kind of work?
Yeah.
Agencies, or what is it?
No, that's like I said, that's all I knew. And I had done it before. I've done it for 2 other companies, other people. I haven't done it. So I knew how to get here. And this is, again, thing I say to my team. I can do it again. Tomorrow, I'll go start something like this. I'll take it to 30 people. I don't know what happens next because I haven't been here. So now that I have a team where we have the revenues to put towards marketing and all of that, we're together figuring out what comes next for us. And it's an exciting time. So yes, the vision has come true because, again, I've done it before.
Sure. So Paul, then how did, you mentioned that you moved here when Splunk had become your first client, right? How did you start a conversation and acquire one as your first?
I responded to their RFP. I responded to an RFP and said, they put it out to the world for anyone to respond to. Yeah, and I responded and I said, here's what we can do, here's what we've done before. And as a solo person, you have to look bigger than you are. So I used my personal references and I told stories from my previous work, and I showed a bigger presence than it was at the time.
And you were a little bit.
What's that?
And you were a little bit.
No, I was not. No, so the cool thing about the RFP process is it's not numbers, it's quality based. They don't even look at the pricing. They look at the pricing after they're convinced that this is the right company to go with. Yeah.
One thing that I noticed when you moved into the community, though, right when that started with Blount County, is you talked about meeting a lot of people, being at a lot of things, but you, just like one of your values, came in humbly, not like, look at me, I'm new, and look what I can do for you. You really did have a sense when you first met AV is, I'm really excited to be part of this community. Didn't you feel that way when you first met? And it was a very likability. There was a lot of likability. They were proud to introduce you, like the mayor and all. When I first met you, it was kind of nice because, again, I think you came in without the attitude. You came in very humbly. And I think that was a big part of the success.
Thank you. And it helps that, I had my back to the wall, so I had nothing. When I saw your question.
Well, you kind of led right into this. When you started, you were a solopreneur, essentially. It was just you. Did you always know that you would have 30 people, or was that just something that as you were successful, you had to adapt, and what did that process look
No, the vision always included having a team. And as a solopreneur, then it's the chicken and the egg. You can't have people because you don't have revenues. You don't have revenues because you don't have people. So at some point, you have to bite the bullet and say, I'm going to hire somebody and not get paid for 3 months, and that's how we grow. Because in our business, we're not selling bottles, right? If you're not selling ideas on a project, you're not making money. And if it's just me, I can't sell enough projects, I can't bill on them, and there's no revenue. So the vision was always to grow a team, but there were micro risk taking that's involved in that, because you don't know when your next project's or contract's going to show up. I was lucky that I had a well-paying client as my first client, and it wasn't well-paying at first. Like we grew that account, then we could bring in employees and pay them, and then the challenge was, can we get from just one client to 2 clients? Can we get from 2 to 3? And now we have, I think, 30 active clients. Active, like at this moment, we have 30 clients, plus those that we've served in the past. So, yeah, well, you have to walk that tightrope of revenue versus expenses.
Avy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us
Appreciate you.
today.
Thank you.
We